Again, absolutely no. No, ma'am. I do not believe you. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night, J-Bay. You're gonna have to come up with something better than this because it's not making a whole lot of sense. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam, and I am super happy to have all of you here again with me this week. If you are new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense, so if you're into that type of thing or you like today's video, I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and make sure you never miss another upload from me. Picture this. It's April 2023 and you are steeped in pop culture news and trends. Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn break up. Pedro Pascal is everyone's favorite human. And suddenly, everyone is excited for a movie about a Barbie that gave them body image issues when they were children. What a fascinating time to be alive and online. But in the background, moving silently, brewing like a chaotic storm, was one plus-size influencer getting ready to release a video that would momentarily break the internet. That's right, in April 2023, just a little more than a year ago, is when we all collectively learned about J-Bay. A woman who demanded, and is still demanding, that all airlines be required to provide plus-size passengers with multiple free seats. Her video blew up, going so viral that it even got picked up by mainstream media. Sorry to take you back there like that, but I felt like it was necessary for us to go back and look at where we came from so that we can see what is going on now, because our girl J-Bay is at it again, but somehow it's worse this time than it was the first time. If you haven't seen it, J-Bay posted a video just a few weeks ago on May 15th sharing her story of discrimination that she experienced at SeaTac Airport.
My ordeal at SeaTac Airport will shock you. This experience I'm about to share with you is yet another example of why employee sensitivity training, a demand outlined in the plus-size travel petition, is desperately needed. I'm a plus-size wheelchair user, and on a recent flight to the SeaTac Airport, I requested wheelchair assistance, as I always do. When it came time for me to deplane, I saw the employee who would be assisting me with my wheelchair waiting for me in the entry of the jet bridge. As I approached her and she realized she'd be assisting me and not one of the smaller passengers, she started to walk away with the wheelchair while making comments about my size. Even when I told her I really needed the chair and needed her to let me sit down in it, she blatantly ignored me and kept walking. I was then forced to walk up one of the longest jet bridges I've encountered, and she didn't stop. By the time she let me reach the wheelchair and sit down, my lips were white. My oxygen levels had dropped and I almost fainted. This was my first time flying without oxygen. This woman just assumed I could walk and would rather me do that, instead of her having to push someone my size up the jet bridge. All the other attendants wheeled their passengers up the jet bridge, but my needs were disregarded. This is discrimination. Nobody should be treated this way. Share your story at change.org/size travel.
So, as you can see right off the bat, she started her story by reminding everyone that she has this plus-size travel petition, which she started last year, which is what caused her to go viral and get picked up by those mainstream media sources. And her introducing the story this way before she's even told her story makes it a little bit disingenuous to me. I'm curious if anyone else feels that way, but right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's okay. So you're doing this just to promote the petition then. But even if I just push that out of my brain or to the back of my brain, let that sit out, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and just not think that way and try to give J-Bay a little benefit of the doubt. Even when I do that, there are still quite a few things that stick out to me about this story specifically. The first is that J-Bay says that this woman with the wheelchair, who's supposed to be her wheelchair assistant, sees her and then immediately walks away and starts grumbling under her breath. Now, imagine if this had happened to you, okay? Put yourself in J-Bay's shoes. If someone looked at you and then took your wheelchair and turned around and was grumbling under their breath and walking away from you, J-Bay makes it seem like she's walking away kind of quickly, like J-Bay can't catch up to her. This person would be gone out of your sight because you would be a little taken aback, right? Like, this would be a very rude interaction. You would probably pause just because you would be shocked. But when you listen to J-Bay tell the story, this woman who saw her and immediately walked away was somehow around long enough for J-Bay to tell her repeatedly that she needed to use the wheelchair. So something is off here for me. Was J-Bay able to have a conversation with this employee, or did the employee see her and immediately turn and walk away? Because the two things don't seem to be lining up. If the employee was walking away immediately, then J-Bay would not have had the opportunity to have the conversation and tell her that she needed to use the chair. Unless, I guess, she was yelling down the jetway and she didn't want to admit to that. It's just not adding up right off the bat. The next thing that stuck out to me straight away was J-Bay saying, this employee assumed I could walk and would rather I do that. Unless J-Bay is a mind reader, she has absolutely zero way to know what this employee was thinking. You cannot prescribe motive to people that you don't know. And we've seen that. Glitter and Lasers did that, and we talked about that a few months ago when she yelled at some woman on the trail for complimenting her. You can't decide what someone else is thinking, right? You can't read their mind. You have no idea what that person was thinking, what kind of day they were having. If this did happen, it is a very rude interaction. And so, like, I would be taken aback by that as well, based on the way J-Bay is describing it to us. But that's the thing about the internet, right? We're getting one side of a story, and that one side isn't completely coherent. And that one side is prescribing motive to the other side. And we don't know what that person was thinking or going through or doing, or if they told J-Bay, hey, hang on a second, let me go and get someone who may be better suited to do your wheelchair assistance. We have no idea. We only have J-Bay's side of the story. Now, I don't know if it's just me, because I do tend to approach everything with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially if it's posted on the internet. But this story seems wildly outlandish to me, because airports in particular have cameras absolutely everywhere. And for someone like J-Bay, who strikes me as a Karen, for someone like J-Bay to have experienced this and it was so blatant, she would have been able to go to anyone in that airport, even after the fact. She would have been able to call that airport and report it, and they would be able to pull that footage and remedy the situation. Instead, J-Bay decided to make this video using stock footage that she's used over and over again throughout her TikTok career, overlaid with this story so she can talk about her plus-size travel petition, and so she can drive engagement by asking others to share their stories with her in her comments. Then, just 2 short weeks later, J-Bay had yet another story of discrimination that she felt she needed to share with the internet.
This was right before the incident I'm about to tell you about. On the first leg of the trip, the wheelchair assistance completely failed us. I was left struggling to be okay. There is a video about the incident on my page. That experience was already stressful and humiliating enough, so by the time it was time to fly home, I decided to have my fiance push me in the wheelchair to avoid any more mishaps. Picture this, me, a plus-size woman in a wheelchair, pushing my suitcase with one hand while my fiance did their best to steer. It wasn't the easiest setup, but we were managing. As we were making our way through the terminal, we walked by a group of flight attendants. At first, I thought nothing of it, but then I heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, directed right at us. They didn't even try to hide it. They pointed, laughed, and made snide remarks, and one said, "What the actual fuck?" My heart sank. The sting of their mockery was intense. It's one thing to deal with stares and whispers, but outright laughter and public humiliation. It was too much. Nobody should be treated like this. Read the caption for more. Recently, I had a distressing experience at Chicago O'Hare Airport. As a plus-size ambulatory wheelchair user, I faced a significant challenge when trying to get to baggage claim. The only option was to go through a revolving door. We pressed the button to slow it down for people with disabilities, but as soon as we entered, we got stuck. I'm claustrophobic and began to panic, frantically motioning to the staff for help. They just stared at me, offering no assistance. A passerby noticed our struggle and tried to help, but the airport staff remained unresponsive. This was my second terrible experience at O'Hare during just one trip. The lack of assistance was not only frustrating but dehumanizing, highlighting the necessity for airport staff to treat
Okay. I just need to take a second here. As if I wasn't skeptical enough when the first video came out, she's just admitted that this is the second leg of that same trip. So she's now experienced discrimination twice in one trip. Allegedly, she's expecting us to believe that this has happened. But the thing that stuck out to me here, which was a question I had in the first video, but I didn't put it down because I was like, maybe that's a little mean, but also who's filming her? She just admitted that her fiance has been with her for the entirety of this trip. Where was he during all of this? He didn't try to help her. He didn't try to stop that employee. He didn't say, J-Bay, wait right here. I'm gonna go get help. The math just isn't mathing for me. That your partner would be with you and not say a word. And this story is even more wild to me than the second one. Because she's telling us that she got stuck in a door. A revolving door, even though she pushed the button to slow the door down. And not only did a group of employees that she managed to see somehow, not only did they ignore her while she was waving her hands, they ignored a completely random stranger, a passerby, who had stopped to help her. Again, absolutely no ma'am, I do not believe you. I do not believe that this happened at all the way she is describing it. And again, I'm going to point to the fact that airlines and airports have cameras absolutely everywhere. Like, this is a thing that everyone knows, right? There are people who are worried about it with the facial recognition and all the things. So everyone is aware that cameras are everywhere in an airport. And somehow we are just expected to believe that J-Bay not only saw one airport employee, but a gaggle of them just standing around talking. And then that group, as she describes them, just ignored her as she was stuck. She is asking us to do a lot of mental gymnastics for this story to be believable, essentially, because the story is just out there, okay? And one of the other reasons that this is a hard story for me to believe in its entirety is that Chicago is known for revolving doors, especially at O'Hare Airport. I live in Illinois. We get all 4 seasons, sometimes in one day. Those doors are super efficient, A, because they're energy efficient, but B, they're also traffic efficient, okay? O'Hare Airport is within the top 10 airports worldwide, moving 73.9 million people per year. Not only is J-Bay asking us to believe her when she says there was a gaggle of employees that ignored her, she's also asking us to believe her, in my opinion, as someone who has been to O'Hare Airport, she is asking us to believe that there was no one else around who was frustrated that now they also couldn't get through that revolving door because she was stuck in it and no one was helping. Do you see why the details are just not lining up? There are just so many variables that make this story, her 2 stories, not believable. But wait, there's more.
Hi, Billy Mays here for Mighty Putty.
Much like her first story, as J-Bay is making her way through the airport, now being pushed in a wheelchair by her fiance, she stumbles across not only a group of employees, but a group of flight attendants. Okay, a little more believable. Flight attendants sometimes wait at the gate, although it's rare for me to see them outside of the gate, but whatever. I'm going to give her that. I do see them in groups. Okay. She literally says, "I heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, and I knew it was directed at us." Again, J-Bay the mind reader somehow knew that this group was laughing about her. We have talked a lot on this channel about the way people put their anxieties on other people. Okay, she's feeling embarrassed. She's feeling some type of way about herself. She hears a group of people laughing, and she automatically assumed that it was about her because of the way she is feeling about herself. But she's projecting that onto this group of people who have their own lives. They could be laughing about anything, but she thinks it's her. She knows it's her. But here's the thing. She embellishes the story, saying that once she knew the sound of laughter was coming from them and it was targeted at her, she also saw that they were pointing at her, making snide remarks, and one even said, "What the actual ma'am, can we just stop this?" There is no way that she did not report that this day. She has been working with airlines for over a year now, talking to their administrative staff, talking to policymakers. She has this big, booming voice on social media, and she's not afraid to share with her audience that she is having these in-depth conversations. But suddenly we're asked to believe that she had something very specific happen to her. It was very targeted in the way she's told this story. They were pointing, they were laughing, they said, "What the actual..." And we're just expected to believe that she has no voice in this situation. We're expected to believe that suddenly J-Bay is just a meek little scared girl. It doesn't make sense. Like, I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night, J-Bay. You're gonna have to come up with something better than this because it's not making a whole lot of sense. And just like with her last video, she rounds this one out, reminding people about her plus-size travel petition and the fact that no body should have to experience discrimination. And for me, outside of all the mental gymnastics she's asked us to do, it's the pushing of the petition over and over again that just makes both of these stories a little bit too much. Like, it's just, you're doing too much to try to push the petition. And that made me wonder, when she originally launched this petition, what did she list as the discrimination that she faced? Her fiance dealt with hateful comments, disapproving looks, and a refusal to sit next to them. And she was forced to occupy only one seat with a movable armrest that caused pain and bruises. I hate to be the one to point it out to her again, but 3 of the 4 of those things were not under the control of the airport. So even if eventually airlines do give in to this travel petition, or the FAA does, they can only really fix one of her issues, which was the immovable armrest and having to sit in one seat. All of the rest of those things mean nothing. So I hate to be that person. But that being said, she really went ahead and upped the ante this time, because rather than having these vague little things that have happened, like disapproving looks, she has very in-depth, detailed stories of the discrimination that's happened to her. And she's not saying that this is coming from other passengers, but rather airport and airline employees. I think we can tell collectively, I hope so, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth out there, but I think we can tell that this is J-Bay trying to catch that viral train again. She needs the petition to have some attention drawn to it, because it's been sitting at about 30,000-ish signatures for almost a year. Like, she got that initial bunch of signatures and then not much has really happened with it. But if you ask her, according to her own content, she thinks she's killing it. It's also easy for us to know this because we can just take a quick scan of J-Bay's content, and we can see that since that original content came out a year ago that made her go viral when she got all of that attention, her views were really, really high. And since that point in time, her views have been pretty darn low until she started pushing these stories out. And then you can see her views skyrocketing up again. It's just all so convenient, isn't it? Of all the content creators that we've talked about on this channel, of all the content we've talked about on this channel, J-Bay is the creator who continues to just blow my mind. Like, I have such a hard time wrapping my brain around what she thinks she's doing on the internet because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And as we can see, her stories unravel pretty fast when you start to look at them with a more critical eye. But the one thing that always sticks out to me and that I've mentioned in other videos where I've talked about J-Bay is what she doesn't seem to realize is that for a lot of people, there really is anxiety about flying on planes or getting on planes, but the reason for that anxiety is that they have not been on a plane in a really long time and their body's changed and so they don't really know what to expect. And what most people find is they get on the plane, they ask for a seatbelt extender, and things go fine. And they start to relax on that anxiety a little bit. It's not as bad as they built it up to be in their brains. And then they're fine. What J-Bay fails to realize here is that she, unlike most people, is flying really frequently. And I mean, good for her that she is able to do that and she's made this her brand and it's the thing she's doing, right, is plus size travel. But it means that those issues that she's having about not fitting in the seats, asking for seatbelt extenders, needing multiple seats, it's top of mind for her all the time. So she's constantly got these things built up and has these anxieties. Where, again, most people, like, flying is a luxury. We're doing it maybe once or twice a year. I guess I'll speak for myself. Again, I won't put words in anybody else's mouth. But we don't really fly a whole bunch because who can afford to go on vacation right now? And J-Bay just doesn't seem to realize that she is the definition of first world problems, especially in today's economy. Like, most people don't have time to worry about airline seats because most people can't afford airline tickets right now. Like, do you need a little perspective, J-Bay? All right, that is all I have for you all today. At this point, I'm curious to know what you think. Did you see J-Bay's newest videos in the wild? What do you think about her stories of discrimination? Did you catch any of those red flags in the 2 stories? Did you note that she was really driving home this petition and trying to get people to sign it again so she can bump her signature count up? Do those things have deadlines? Does she maybe have a deadline she's trying to hit, which is why these 2 stories came out back to back? I have a lot of questions, and I'm sure you all do too. I hope you'll share your opinions with me down below because you all always come so prepared, and I love to read what you're thinking, so please share those with me down below. And for all my introvert friends out there who may not feel comfortable leaving your opinion in an internet comment section, I see you, I feel you. Go ahead and leave me some sort of math equation, emoji, whatever you're feeling down there, because the math just really is not mathing today. So go ahead and leave me some of those equations because I love seeing your emojis just as much as I love reading those opinions. As always, thank you all so much for being here with me today. I will see you in the next one. Bye.